Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Chatham County. We're so grateful that everyone decided to join us tonight for our North Carolina 4th Congressional District Federal Town Hall. My name is Salima Thomas. I serve as Congressman Foushee's Deputy Chief of Staff and District Director. Along with my colleague and our Chief of Staff, Elizabeth Atkins, we will be coming around this evening to be able to answer your questions that you might have for Congressman Foushee, Chair Howard, and Leader Reeves. But before we get started, I just wanted to provide an overview of our house rules for this evening. We're asking for all attendees today to be respectful, no personal attacks, hate speech, or disruptive behavior. One question per person, and please keep questions clear and concise. We'll likely have to cut it off around a minute, so please let's get direct and to the point. Staying on topic, direct questions to the official or panel, no campaigning or off-topic remarks, please. As I mentioned before, there will be a time limit of 1 minute max per question/comment. We're asking that there are no interruptions, allowing the speakers and attendees to finish their remarks without any interjection. And thank you for abiding by not providing any signs or banners during tonight's event. And the last thing that we mentioned, as you all have experienced coming in, is that we had the security screening coming in. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the Chair of the Chatham County Commissioner, Karen Howard.
Here we go. I do remember how this works. Thank you all for being here. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to hear and offer for you to hear from your elected representatives who take their work very seriously and commit to showing up in Chatham when they can, and have really been instrumental in helping us ensure that we stay abreast of the issues in both Chatham, North Carolina, and at the federal level. Is the microphone not working?
It could be louder.
Thank you again. I don't know whether you can hear what I said. I won't repeat it all, but thank you all for being here and welcome to our guests. We will start with the welcome to our American Legion 6, who will be presenting the colors, and then we will go straight into the national anthem.
Please rise.
try this one. Because I have more of an outside voice than Karen. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is certainly an honor to be with you tonight for my town hall, and I do thank you all for taking the time to stay engaged and informed. I also want to say that it is certainly an honor and a privilege to be able to represent parts of Chatham County, if not all of Chatham County. So before we go forward, I would like to take a moment to recognize the other elected officials in the room. And we'll start at the dais, and then others, if you would, stand and give your office.
Thank you. I am Karen Howard. I am Chair of the Chatham County Board of Commissioners.
Robert Reeves, State House Representative, and also Democratic Leader. Thank you for letting me serve you for 11 years.
Cheryl Turner, Chair, Vice Chair of the Board of Education.
Sheriff Mike Robertson, Sheriff of Chatham County.
And I think there is at least one more. Maybe not. So again, thank you for being here, and thank you all for everything you do to strengthen our community on the state and local levels. I am currently serving in my second term as your representative in Congress, and it is indeed a privilege to serve you. In less than 100 days, we have seen the Trump administration pass a slew of harmful executive orders, attempt to dismantle critical federal agencies, push reckless tariffs that will drive up everyday costs, withhold congressionally approved federal funding, and much more. My office has heard from tens of thousands of constituents, and you have all made your voices clear. This administration's alarming overreach of power is unacceptable, and I am fighting back on all fronts to protect your hard-earned benefits and combat this extreme and illegal government takeover. Now, before we begin, I would like to thank and introduce our special guests. You've just met them, Leader Reed and Chair Howard. You will hear from both of them in just a few minutes. Then you will have the opportunity to speak to us directly. Your presence here this evening shows how much you care about our community and how much you care about saving democracy. I would like to start by acknowledging the uncertainty and strain many of you are feeling in the wake of this administration's harmful executive orders and actions. I know there's a lot on your minds right now, from tariffs and rising costs to attacks on the essential services and programs that you depend on, to what we know to be concerted efforts to dissolve agencies that are crucial to our national security, environment, and public health. What we are currently facing is truly unprecedented. The stakes are high and the urgency is real. This is a moment where we all need to show up, speak out, and stand together, because what is happening in this Congress and under this administration affects each and every one of us. And your presence here tonight, by taking the time to engage, to ask questions, to be a part of this dialogue, speaks volumes. It says you care deeply about the direction we are headed in, and that you are not willing to sit on the sidelines. I've heard from people from across the 4th District that they are concerned, they are anxious, and they are frustrated and angry, and they want answers. And although I may not have all of the answers tonight, I promise you this: you will be heard. Your concerns, your frustrations, your passion for our community, and your deep commitment to protecting our democracy are important, and they are essential for the fight ahead. In a couple of months, the Trump administration and the ultra-conservatives in Congress have launched an aggressive campaign to undermine the very foundations of our democracy. They are pushing for extreme orders that roll back hard-won freedoms, that target our rights, gut governmental protections, defund public education, criminalize immigrants and asylum seekers, weaken worker protections, and slash social safety net programs that millions of families rely on. They are attacking the legitimacy of our elections, like we are seeing right here with the Griffin NC Supreme Court race, undermining the independence of the judiciary and disregarding our system of checks and balances. They are prioritizing an agenda that seeks to divide, harms the most vulnerable among us, and ignores the struggles and needs of hardworking people, all while bending over backwards to serve billionaires and the ultra-wealthy. The American people cannot afford this extreme agenda, and frankly, our democracy cannot afford this extreme agenda either. Our country is facing a constitutional crisis, one that demands urgent action. And let me be real with you, in the House of Representatives, we are just a couple of votes short, 3 to be exact, blocking this administration's reckless agenda. In other words, we just need a couple of Republicans to stand up and say, enough is enough, and push back against the damage that is being done. We need leaders who would join us in putting the people first and fighting for what is right. Rest assured, I will keep fighting back. I will continue to sound the alarm, and I will do everything in my power to ensure that North Carolinians are not paying the price of this administration's extreme agenda. I will always stand up for you and the people of the 4th District, and I won't stop fighting for you and for democracy. House Democrats are planning to stand up to lower everyday costs, protect your privacy, and ensure unelected billionaires can't rig the system in their favor. We are fighting to restore our critical government agencies, safeguard Medicare, Medicaid rather, and Social Security, and to make your tax dollars work for you, not just the wealthy. I want to make sure that my colleagues with us tonight have an opportunity to provide updates on what they're doing on the state and county levels. And we also want to leave plenty of time to hear from you, because this is how we engage directly with the people who matter most. That's you. And that is what democracy looks like. So I will now turn it over to my dear friend and colleague, North Carolina House Democratic leader, Robert Reed.
Thank you for that, Madam Congresswoman. I had the pleasure of serving with then Senator Foushee for several years before she moved on to Congress, and I don't think we could have a better person at any level serving us in government. She's done everything you can at every level she could, and has always been a leader, and that's what's important right now. I would re-emphasize one point she made, even though my job here isn't to talk about the federal landscape, but I think it's very important to understand, out of the 450 people that, not 450, how many you got?
435 in the House.
Yeah, there we go, okay, 535. Out of 535 people, 7 people need to show a backbone. That's really what it comes down to. For those of you that are fans or not fans of Secretary Hedgepeth, but no, seriously, that was one vote. One vote. And your question is, could you have gotten a better secretary? One vote makes that decision. And anything that's happening now, we do then. And so the most important thing you've done so far is show up, because that's how we start. The next thing I would ask you to do is understand why what's going on at the federal level is serious in a couple of aspects. One, we've already got North Carolinians that are losing jobs now. We've got small businesses that are losing money now. We've got farmers, which we're in agricultural county, that are losing business right now. We've got people who are losing school dollars right now. Our Board of Education is not going to be able to do what it needs to do for our schools. The county commissioners will not be able to do what they need to do because they're going to have to backfill the gap that the feds are leaving. And why that's important is because what they're trying to do is to push a lot of our rights, a lot of the things that matter, down to the state level. Because they're hoping that they can control the state level and take away a lot of your rights in silence, in the quiet, without having to pass national bills, but passing state bills that will be known in North Carolina, but not in South Carolina, be known here, but not there. There is a grand plan. Don't ever think that there's not a plan. And don't ever think they don't understand what that plan is. So all of us have to be ambassadors. All of us have to play elected officials, at least on TV. We got to show up. We got to show up in places. For all of you that have shown up, all of you are in spaces at different times during the week and in your lives with people who aren't here tonight. Not because they're bad citizens, not because they don't care, but because we have pushed an economy and a lifestyle upon them that gives them nothing but the ability to focus on both of their jobs, trying to make their mortgage, trying to make their rent, trying to figure out if they're going to pay for medication, if they're going to pay for food. We've done that as a government, especially in North Carolina over the last 15 years. And that trend has to stop. So what's got to happen is you have got to get out here and get this information out, because unfortunately, if you're in here, you're not one of these billionaires that controls the Washington Post, that controls Facebook, that controls Fox News, that controls all these media outlets, so that they cannot tell you exactly what's going on and why it matters to you. You're not out here looking for clicks, you're out here looking for solutions to make your lives and the lives of the people that come after you better. And that's what our government should be about, but it has stopped being about under this administration. So not only do we ask you to be the trumpeters, but help get us in those spaces. We had a town hall recently, which I know several of you attended, and I'll repeat what I said there. We will show up wherever you can get us in. If you can get us into your churches, we will be at your churches. If you can get us into your Rotary clubs, we'll be at your Rotary clubs, your civic organizations, wherever it is. I don't care if it's 5 or 10 people. Those are 5 or 10 people that don't know how they're getting destroyed by what's going on right now. I've never been as worried about my children and their children at any point in time as I am right now. I've never been as worried that somebody can now go and get a college degree, get post-grad studies, get whatever they want, and that there may be actual limitations to what they're allowed to do in this country. A lot of what you're seeing right now is testing the limits. You're seeing this administration test the limits of the courts, test the limits of Congress, and they're seeing what will you allow us to do. And it's just like, for those of you that are parents, bad children. And if you didn't have any bad children, I was a bad child, and how that goes. You keep pushing to figure out what they're going to let you do. And if we, as voting people who are the parents, don't bring these guys back in, they're going to take everything from you that they can. Because they don't believe that you deserve health care. They don't believe that you deserve an education that allows you to take advantage of a changing economy. They don't believe that you should be able to afford housing. They don't believe that you should be safe in your neighborhoods. But we believe that. And we know that that's possible. This isn't a pipe dream. This isn't some idyllic thing that we're talking about. We're talking about simple government fixes to help your lives get better, so that we can get back to a point where somebody can work 40 hours a week and afford to live in this country and afford to live in this community. Get back to a point where your children are guaranteed to have a better life than you had, as long as they take advantage of the opportunities that are there for them. So I say all this to tell you, this is something I know we take seriously at the state level. We are preparing for these cuts. We're preparing to govern responsibly, but we've got to have more people that believe in responsible government and don't just believe in covering up for their friends. Because when Western North Carolina got turned down for the extension for the 100% match for the federal government, when I listened to one of my Congress people, and not this lady here, say, well, that's okay. That should never be okay. A person representing the people suffering like they are in Western North Carolina to casually just say, well, we're just going to trust that these other folk that don't live in North Carolina know what's going on. You have then decided that it's more important for you to stay in office, more important for you to stay friends with your buddies up in Washington than to take care of the people who voted you in to represent. And I promise you that is what we're here for. Thank you.
And I want to jump right on top of what we've heard from Representative Reeves and Congressman Foushee. A lot of this is going to be pushed down to the local level, and the local level cannot meet the demand. We can't. And it is okay with some people that not every child is educated to the best of their ability. It is okay with some people that there are hungry kids. It's okay with some people that not everybody has a home, has access to work. But I think we have decided in Chatham that that is not okay with us. That we have never met a 4-year-old that we were okay with being hungry. That we've never seen a high schooler that we thought didn't necessarily need breakfast and lunch. That we've never met an autistic child, a blind child, a child with some other disability or incredible ability that didn't deserve the education that a good public school system can provide. You know, and we only have your tax dollars to spend. That's it. If we are charged with meeting the demands that the federal government has failed to meet, we will miss that mark sorely. We are already overtaxed, right? We know that Chatham County residents bear an unfair burden, tax burden, because we don't have enough agriculture, we don't have enough commercial, we don't have enough industrial to balance the needs of people. But we've also decided that the needs of people trump the rest of it, right? That safe, clean housing, clean water, streets that are safe to cross, that are manageable, that make sense, that fit within the context of what Chatham County has worked so hard to preserve, that our quality of life matters, that the preservation of agricultural land in Chatham County matters, not just because we love the way the county looks when it stays green and clean, but also because we understand that we need to be able to feed ourselves. And that we can't just develop, and hope that the tax dollars that we pull in will help us fix the problem. They won't. They never will. We have got to have a federal government and a state government that believe that the big ticket items, the things that we all just benefit from, highways, public education, food, and a system to support the people who have already worked their entire lives and now should be able to retire, so that younger people can start filling those jobs. We have got to demand that we have a system that works at every level. Because I do believe you have good county commissioners. I do believe that you have an excellent Board of Education, but they are powerless to fill the gap that is being left. And the gap that is being created with this underlying premise that not everybody deserves the best of what this country, of all nations in the world, can give. And for me, it is an affront to think that the people, there are so many wonderful people in this country, so many incredible, kind, thoughtful, compassionate, brilliant, committed souls, that we will allow ourselves to be manipulated into becoming a people who are content with letting some of us not be represented properly, letting some of us be accused of a crime and therefore guilty, as opposed to having to be proven to be guilty. That some people don't belong here by virtue of their color, their language, the history of the places that they came from. I do not believe that. I do not believe, as a first-generation American, I reject the notion that that is what we are. I know too many of us too well. And I also think we need to broaden our tent, and we need to start reaching out to the people that can't hear us. Not everybody is going to be able to listen to Karen Howard and take in that information, but every single person in every single audience that you ever sit in has somebody that will listen to them, someone who believes them, someone that trusts them. And I think we've all got to be ambassadors for what we deeply believe, the things that we hold valuable as Americans, right? That we are, in fact, created equal. That every single one of your children and grandchildren deserves the best of what this country has to offer. And so do your neighbors' children and grandchildren. We've got to fight this thing together every single day. And so I urge everyone, we're going to do our part. We will not stop. We have an incredible staff that is working to figure out how do we budget in an uncertain time with all of the lack of clarity that exists at the federal and the state level. How do we budget to make sure that we meet the needs of our community? And we will do it, but we cannot do it indefinitely. And we are going to need every single person to do whatever it is that you can from where you are with what you have, because we are all committed to doing the same thing. Thank you for being here. I am going to moderate the questions, and I will start with a question that we received, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience. I know that you have wonderful questions. I suspect that you will want to hear more from these great folks than from me, and that is perfectly fine. The first question that I have is from Leanna in Durham, North Carolina, and she wants to know, what actions is the Congresswoman going to take on saving EPA, biopharma, the National Institute of Health, and science and research jobs in the Triangle?
So thank you for that question. It's a question that we're hearing across the spectrum for many federally funded jobs. So right now what we know is that DOGE has taken over the agencies and slashing pretty much indiscriminately. What we have to do is pretty much what you heard Leader Reed say. We have to stand up against an unelected billionaire whose sole purpose is to come in and shrink government in a way that we're just talking about dollars, but we're not talking about people and programs. We're not talking about services that people count on every day. If we don't continue to fund NIH the way that it should be funded, then we're losing the opportunity to continue with life-saving medicines. We're losing the opportunity to do the clinical trials. We're losing the opportunity by underfunding EPA to make sure that the water that you get from Jordan Lake is clean. We're losing the opportunity to make sure that the air that we breathe is clean, that those generations to come will be able to experience what we already have. What it's going to take is during this process of reconciliation that we find some Republicans who believe that their constituents deserve the same clean air, the same clean water, the same life-saving medicines that we believe that all of you deserve. What I am asking, as we fight in Congress with introducing legislation that is probably not going to be heard, that we continue to fight in the courts. And as I'm sure many of you know, we are winning some of these cases. The problem is that the courts will make a decision and the administration will choose not to abide by it. We talked about Pete Hegseth just a little earlier, and I only bring this up to say that we need Republicans with a backbone to make sure that we don't make these choices. If you're talking about one vote that got a person who was unqualified and should not have been certified to serve in a role where he is putting lives in danger, we need Republicans to stand up with us and say that these agencies should be funded, that these programs should be funded, that we should not forget the least, the lost, and the left behind. So I will continue to fight with my colleagues to make sure that we're bringing enough votes along to make sure that we are funding these very programs that we just enumerated.
Thank you. Can we take a question from the floor?
Good, yes. I teach at the #1 high school in the United States of America. Happens to be in Durham, North Carolina. And we have some of the most brilliant students in the state of North Carolina and in the country. These are our future scientists. When I see my kids tomorrow morning, what message should I convey to them from you in terms of their future, and especially in the sciences?
Thank you. So I think what you should say to them is that those of us who believe in education, those of us who believe that every child should have a chance for opportunity, that we will continue to fight. What we're hearing is the plan after dissolving or dismantling the Department of Ed is to push those programs that are being handled by the Department of Ed to the state level. All of us know that here in North Carolina, we're still working to make sure that we get it right here. We still have not done what we should do with Leandro. So we can't expect that that's going to happen overnight here while we're still talking about funding private schools. What you need to tell your students is that those of us who believe in education, those of us who benefited from public education like myself, a first-generation high school graduate, that we will continue to fight. We will make sure that those dollars are there by hook or by crook, because we know it's important. We know that we need to prepare our students to not just be ready to compete nationally, but ready to compete globally. It escapes me how we can believe that we can continue to be competitive with China in particular if we are not raising the next generation of workers, of leaders, to be able to do what they need to do for us in this country, but to stay competitive so that America stays first. We cannot talk about being first if we're not preparing the next generation to be first. The Department of Education was created for a reason, to make sure that those students who had disabilities were treated fairly, that all students had their civil rights protected, that where grants were to be administered to students who could not afford to go to colleges, that those funds would be there and that they would be managed. Those are still programs that need to continue. They will not be done fairly if they are pressed down to the state level. We're not going to let that happen. Trust me, we will find 3 more, or it is up to all of you to make sure that we are ready in 2026 to replace people who do not believe in public education, people who do not believe that every child deserves a fair chance. That's what you should tell them, and that's what you should tell your friends and your neighbors who believe in public education, who believe in opportunity, and who believe that America should stay competitive.
Come see us at the School of Science and Math.
Invite me.
Well, and as a proud parent of 2 NCSSM graduates, I want to add that I am traveling to Washington, D.C. next month. And I would be happy, and I'm meeting with Tillis and Bud, and I would be happy to hand deliver some letters from those students expressing their needs. To North Carolina, that school is, and that those students are going to be the very ones that help us find the cures to the diseases of now and the future, that answer the questions about our technology challenges. We have brought together the best and the brightest. Let's give them, open the door to the opportunity that they work for. They are doing their part.
That'll be the class activity tomorrow.
And thank you for what you do. I am an educator.
Before we go to that, I just want to add a little 2 cents for everybody that's around a young person, and I really want to remind all of you the same thing. Here's a fact. People are going to spend billions of dollars over the next year and a half to make you angry, to make you upset, and to make you unfocused. To protect yourself, what you've got to do is figure out what is it that really matters to me. Because I've heard it already from some people in the majority right now when they've been interviewed, how they laugh about the fact that next year they're going to run some ads and do some things to make people focus on groups and people that really are not stopping you from achieving your American dream. There's one group of people in the entire country who are trying to stop everybody else from achieving their American dream, and that are the wealthy billionaires that have taken over your government. because somehow they have convinced themselves that, God help us, if you get an education, if you're healthy and you get a chance to work, that somehow they're going to lose that $1 billion before they die. And I mean, it's really, it is the most incredible thing I've ever seen, but they are scared to death of an educated populace. But what you've got to remind people is your news isn't from the bot on Facebook. Your news isn't from the algorithm, which literally you can read anywhere, is built to make you angry and to argue and to fuss. It's not built to make you be part of a consensus. You've got to focus on what's important, because when we get to these elections, you got to remember that you care about education. These kids have got to remember they care about education. They can't get distracted by whatever the social issue is of the moment that these folks are telling you is important. What's important is everybody within the borders of this country has an opportunity to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, the goal is to distract you so that you cannot focus on what's really important.
I'm going to read a question from the basket, and then we'll go to the audience again. This one is, I am a retired surgeon and worked at the VA hospital in Durham from 2013 to 2023. It provides important care to many veterans, and I am concerned that Trump has fired or retired many needed personnel. What can be done to support this vital service?
One of the things that can be done is that veterans in particular who use those services need to make sure that you are telling the narrative. If we don't elevate and amplify the stories about what is really happening to people, then we can't rely on the media to do it. And as long as we're not keeping informed about what's happening, then there's not going to be a remedy. There is a reason that people who are in these positions are afraid to come out themselves, because they don't know who's going to be slashed next. They can't tell their stories. When you hear all of the criticisms about what happens at the VA, a lot of that is about how the VA has been underfunded for years. A lot of that is about how the physicians and the nurses who work regularly there are doing everything they can, but there are not enough of them to take care of veterans. And so we have to make sure that their voices are being heard through us. One of the things that we're asking people to do is to go to our website and share those stories, because what many of us are doing, we're sharing those stories on the floor in the chamber to make sure that these stories are being heard. And in the instances that there are people on the other side of the aisle who pretend that they are not aware that these things are happening, we're making sure that they're being held accountable. People who have served this country and now expect to just get what they were promised when they signed up to keep us protected and free have the right to expect us to do right by them. And as long, let me just say this, I think we all know elections have consequences. The fact is, y'all, that all of the things that we're talking about, these are numbers games. And until we have the numbers to make those changes, yes, we will stand up for you, we will speak out for you, we will make sure that your voices are heard, but when it comes down to a simple vote of yays and nays, we have to have more yays than nays. That means that at every election, you need to vote your interests. Vote for people who have proven that they will work for you, or who you have no reason to not believe that they will. If you have had a public servant to serve for 4 years and came in with a good economy, came in with the nation doing well, and brought the nation to its knees before he left, and you allow that person to go away and bring people around to help him and them take over the country in 4 years, and then this person forecasts what he plans to do and what his band of merry men and women will help him do, and you return him a 34 counts convicted felon, don't be surprised when that person does exactly what he said he would do. Nothing should surprise you except how quickly he was able to do it. So when we talk about what I am doing, what she is doing, what he is doing, and what you can do is to change the faces of the folk in the spaces that determine the future of this generation and the next generation and generations to come.
I wonder if you can say something for the high school seniors who have applied for FAFSA, have heard nothing, are not able to make connections. What is happening at Pell Grants for this upcoming academic year? And who is handling them?
Your guess is as good as mine. So as it relates to Pell Grants, we'll have to see what happens with the budget and reconciliation. That has not been determined. What we do know is that the Department of Ed is being dismantled by executive order, and that was part of what the Department of Ed did. So if it's not going to be handled there, it's determined by where Congress decides that will be handled. We're not sure which agency will handle that at this point. That's an answer I can't give you, but certainly as soon as we can, we will. That's not the first that we've heard about people not being able to connect and hear from these agencies. What I would ask you to do is to say to them to give our office a call, because that's what we do. We do our best to make those connections. And where we can get answers, we will return those answers to you. Raise your hand, staff members, so that you all can see that we have a number of staff folk here from our district office and our DC office who are hearing your questions and will be able to provide answers to you as soon as we can get those answers. So any answers that we don't have tonight, please make sure that you contact the office and we will get what we can for you. But, you know, over the next, I guess, 4 weeks or so, we will know more about what's happening as it relates to reconciliation and be able to share some of those answers with you. Thanks, Jared, for the question.
Thank you. I also would like to add that I would encourage people to reach out to the Department of Public Instruction in North Carolina. They do have FAFSA assistants who might be able to give some better direction than we can at this stage about what to do, because, I mean, these kids they need answers soon, right? They're not able to sit around and wait and hope that, you know, Congress does what Congress was elected to do. I think they need to have some alternative suggestions for how they will be able to afford college next year, or what other decisions they could make in the interim. So I would encourage that.
As a senior citizen, I would like to know if we hear some things on television and such about Social Security cuts coming, but is there anything behind that?
Yes, there's something behind that. But I think we're at this point, we don't believe it to be benefits. I think this is more, what you're hearing is more of a backdoor approach, where if you slash the number of offices, you slash the number of staffers who can provide assistance, then what you do is you delay people getting the opportunity to get their benefits. The president has said that he will not touch Social Security. The majority has said that it will not touch Social Security. But if you close down offices and you close, well, you slash staff, and you change the way people go through the process. If it is such that there is not an office near you, but part of the process means that you have to appear in person to initiate receiving your benefits, we know what kind of delay that's gonna pose for some people. If you have to go to an office that's not near you, let's say 50, 60 miles, you gotta make an appointment. You have to get in line for those appointments. And then you get to the office, and there may not be sufficient staff to cover all of the people who come that day. That's a tactic that is gonna be used to slash Social Security, if not your benefits. Let's just hope that in what happens going forward, that there are no more offices closed, and that there are no more staff that are gonna be terminated. When I think about this, also think about, just consider what you know is happening with the IRS. And in less than 100 days, we've had 5 administrators. That's gonna delay some returns, because that's gonna delay some processing. All of this, about distractions and delays, delay, is gonna put people in a situation where they're not gonna know what they're gonna be able to do and when they're gonna be able to do it. But not your benefits.
I have a slightly different kind of question. You're in Congress, you sit with other Congress people day in, day out. I would like to understand why so many Congress people don't seem to care that their power and their role is being taken away. Yeah.
I don't get it. I'll tell you this, let me just say this. I can say for Robert and myself, this is not a dig on Chair Howard, but we have the privilege and the benefit of serving people from the communities from which we grew up. And so part of how many of us, and why many of us care about what we do, is because we know you. And so we care about you. And we raised our hands, and we stumped doors, and we begged for dollars to be able to serve you. It means a lot to us that your quality of life is the best it can be. For me, any criticism that I get about my service makes me want to do better. It does not make me not want to do anything, because I'm afraid of a mailer that's going to come out about me. And that those mailers and those posts on social media about what a horrible person I am is going to keep me from returning to office. So I do nothing and hope that nobody says anything. They haven't noticed me. But there are many who will do whatever they need to do to stay in that office. And if they are afraid that a wealthy billionaire will find someone to primary him or her, then they'd rather just not push against what they believe is the new establishment. That's the only answer I can offer.
If I could just add on to that too, I want to make sure that Congress people aren't the only ones getting beat up about that. That goes all the way down. That's the reason we're turning everything partisan. You see something at the state level, one of the things that consistently gets done by the majority is to turn boards of education partisan, even when boards of education are begging not to be part of
Or
this.
city council.
Yes, city councils. And the reason is because they want you beholden to the upper management, whatever it is. And so I would tell you the reason I wanted to bring it up is at the state level, our budget gets written by about 5 people. It's basically the people who are in charge. And the rest of the folks find out what's in that budget when we find out what's in the budget. I mean, think about this being in the majority party, and that's when you find out how the $31 billion that's getting spent for the state is getting spent. We just had a battle in the Senate last week where they were putting extra fines and taxes on ferries for people out on the coast, which is backbreaking if you happen to use that. And the person who represents that area put up a good fight, but the problem is he had no idea what was coming. And so what they're all afraid of is just what Congresswoman Foushee said, is that they become more afraid of losing the office than they do of doing what it is they got elected for. Because the other thing they're not used to, the good thing about, at least since I've been serving, is I know one thing factually, that next year, there's going to be somebody somewhere either sending a mailer or making a post that's an absolute lie. Because we accept that. And again, this to me gets back to voters. Because I will tell you factually how I feel. I'm not supporting a person who feels like they got a lie to get in office. So I don't care if you're a family member, close friend, whatever you are. If your way of doing business is lying to the public in order to get where you're going, then you're not the kind of person I want representing me. Doesn't matter if you're my party. But we have got so many people now in elected office who have just accepted this is just the way it is. Well, what they justify it is saying this, well, you're much better off, if I'm still in office. So I'm doing this for you, so I can stay in office. Instead of saying, if we don't stand up to this behavior, this is who we become. And nothing infuriates me more than the acceptance we have given to lying. Because I've got kids. The one thing I stay on my kids about is I don't care what you do. If you tell me the truth about it, we're going to be fine. And now I've got to explain to them every single day some politician lying or saying something reprehensible. I heard something this morning about the Pope dying that was as reprehensible as anything I've ever heard an elected official say. I didn't say that. But seriously, there's got to be a penalty at some point for that kind of thing. So to answer your question, that's why, because some of them, there are good people. I'm never going to say that there aren't good Republican elected officials serving. But they become scared, they become intimidated, they get bullied, and we don't show that we're going to support that. We don't say as voters that, look, if you do the right thing, we're going to make sure you're there for me. And we've got to start doing that, and we've got to start making there be a penalty for this type of behavior. Because I can tell you right now, if I were in the majority and we're writing the budget, my caucus would eat me alive if I just said, well, here's the budget, good luck. But that's the kind of behavior we become to accept, and you've got to stop accepting that from your elected officials. Thank you.
And one last thing, to your point, we do have conversations. I do have friends on the other side there. I had plenty of them when I was in the General Assembly. And they will say what they believe to me, but they don't say it on the House floor.
And that is true at the county commission level, and I believe that is probably true at every level of government right now, that people are not voting their conscience. They are voting what they consider to be safe, and I get it, that there are scary people on the other side who will do things. You are threatened, right? Your family, your kids, your household, your livelihood is threatened. But if we are not brave enough to stand up to this, then we still get the scary, we still get the threat, we still get the evil that was possible. And we either get it and fight against it, or we get it and kowtow to it. And I think a lot of people have decided they're just gonna break it for it. Our next question is, and I guess this is a good one for each of us, but what is your highest priority issue, and how do you plan to address it?
I'll start while you're thinking. Right now, my highest priority is voting rights, because we know that they are under attack, and they have been for quite some time. And I've already talked to you about the numbers and what it's going to take for us to turn things around. But right now, we have to protect the right to vote, because we know what is coming forward to make sure that some folk are not given access to the ballot box. Nothing hurt me more during this first 100 days than for the SAVE Act to pass. And so we have to stand up against those types of legislation, those types of bills.
So I'm Chatham County Commissioner. My biggest concern really now is, people got their tax valuations and some significant increase in value of the properties. To figure out how we can work to meet the needs of the community, but lessen the impact of that significant increase in value, property values. Households are expensive to support, right? Households take a lot out of the tax dollar. But it's the people that's who we are actually meant to take care of and protect and serve and make sure that we have services available to. So it's a fine balance. I think there will be a lot of conversation and wringing of hands, but I think we have got to come up with a budget that reflects the reality of this moment, but also the financial strain of a constantly increasing tax burden, residential tax burden in Chatham.
I would say with mine is education. One, for my personal benefit, two, because I believe that if I can get you a good, robust education as a constituent, every other problem we've got can get fixed. Because if you've got a good education, you realize when somebody's trying to steal your voting rights. You've got a good education, you realize when somebody's trying to take your health care. When you've got a good education, you work. And I don't say this in an elitist term about education. I mean in the sense of whatever education you need, I want you to have access to that. And sometimes education is getting a high school degree, getting out and getting an apprenticeship. Sometimes education is getting that community college certificate and getting out here and getting in the workforce. But I want you to be able to have that access so that you can understand what's happening to you, because all this stuff has become more complex. In the 50s and the 40s, things were done differently. There was more physicality, more intimidation, more all this kind of stuff to stop you from exercising your rights. Now it's done smartly. It's done like supervillains in some movie. Being serious, it's just these complex plans that you can't see them because you're not able to watch them all come together. But you'll see this part of this bill get passed. You'll see this part get stuck in here. And the next thing you know, you don't have the ability to take advantage of anything around you. I've concentrated on economic development since I've been in office. We've got a lot of economic development here. What good does that do you if you can't do the job? Because you can't get access to education. When you talk to people who are coming to locate in North Carolina, they will tell you at a minimum, you got to have a basic, really good K through 12 education for them to even start training you for these jobs. And again, this is intentional. This isn't something people don't understand. You go out and look at the counties over the last 15 years. We've had the same majority for the last 15 years. You look at the counties that have shrunk, that have become stagnant, and you will notice one thing in common. It's the attack on the education system. Because a lot of those counties are like, I'm lucky to live in Chatham. We've got, the best of both worlds, in a sense. We've got the western side that's very agricultural, very rural. We've got the eastern side that gives us a lot of urban advantages. But I can always relate to Golston, where I live now and where my wife grew up. I'll never forget having this conversation with a person in the know, I would say, who may have opposing political beliefs of mine. And so they were saying, why are you so upset about the vouchers? And that doesn't even make sense, and and all that kind of stuff. I said, because we got 245 people, we're never gonna have a private school, ever, that you're gonna be able to send your kids to. And that means that Bennett closes down. That means that all of these good middle schools and all these good elementary schools that build community are gone. And that means the biggest thing that an educational system does is it creates, sustains, and makes for your best communities. So that's why that's such a big priority to me, and that's why I believe with 80% of our kids, for 15 years, the majority has been pushing, trying to get everybody into a charter or private school, And even after all that pushing, even after putting $1 billion in the charter and private schools over the last year, we still have 80% of our kids that are in public schools. And again, that's how you build community. That's how you learn to socialize. That's how you learn that the world is actually made up of people who aren't just like you. And you know what you find out? The world's a better place for it. And you know some of the people I follow? Some of the most successful companies in the world. I won't name them because we'll have a bill against them tomorrow. That's not exaggeration. But when you talk to their CEOs, and they've said these things publicly, you can Google this, they will tell you that what we know is that the more people that we can choose from, the bigger that pool is, the better off we are as a company. Because people think differently, approach problems differently, and we all make each other better. That's that.
I am afraid we have time for one more question.
One young person asked the question. Thank you. Hi, thank you. Okay, hi, sorry. I've been severely disabled with long COVID for 5 years. Unable to work or care for myself, and since the start of the pandemic, the disability rate has skyrocketed 35%. The excess mortality rate is at an all-time high of 3%. Americans are suffering from a marked increase in strokes, seizures, heart attacks, embolisms, and dementia, all because COVID is a vascular disease, and repeat COVID infections are ruining our health regardless of vaccines. Over 20 million Americans are suffering from long COVID, and it's caused a $1 trillion cost to the global economy annually. It's worse than the HIV/AIDS epidemic, except we're alive, but we're behind closed doors. And I would like to know, do you support the Long COVID Research and Moonshot Act, and will you sponsor it in the House? Where is the eradication vaccine that we were promised at the start of the pandemic? And what are you doing to push for long COVID research? Thank you so much.
I didn't hear most of that. I'm not familiar with.
Sorry, I forgot to take this
Yeah,
off.
I'm not familiar with the legislation that you.
Sponsored by Bernie Sanders.
We can chat afterwards.
And it's bipartisan.
Yeah.
Bipartisan.
But it hasn't come to the House, correct?
We're happy to take a look at it.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
You afterwards as well.
Yes, and certainly I would be,
Did you hear
I
my
would say.
data?
I can't hear her.
Did you hear my data?
I heard your data.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I heard your data, and it certainly sounds like something that I would support. But as with every bill, we read the entire bill to make sure that we can support the majority of, if not all of it. Thank you for bringing that question forward.
Millions of us are on the brink of death, and you don't get to die. You're just sitting there unable to work, behind closed doors, suffering, family members taking care of us.
And the question you asked about the vaccine, you know, we have a new administrator over the CDC, so we'll see what happens with that.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't push for it.
Yeah, thank you for your
No, I
question.
didn't say I wouldn't. What I said was we'll take a look at the bill, and we will certainly support it if we can support it.
Please connect with me and our legislative director, Martin Spencer, afterwards, and we're happy to chat and take a look.
So we are out of time. Thank you all very much for being here. I'm a mother of a special needs 21-year-old now, and it was through the gift of Chatham County Public Schools that he not just made it through school and made it through those days. He graduated cum laude, and it is through the gift of vocational leadership that he has access to a future that is rewarding and fulfilling. He has so many gifts, just like his two older brothers that went to the School of Science and Math and are doing incredible things for this country. So does Matthew, and that, I think what you will hear from all of us and what you have heard is that we all have skin in this game, and our why continues to exist. Our why is our children, our grandchildren, your kids. I've volunteered in schools in Chatham County for 17, 18 years now. I've volunteered in schools that I don't have kids in because I've never met a child that didn't deserve it. And I suspect that none of you have either. So I just want to end this by saying you have some dedicated public servants here. We cannot do it alone. But you also have some powerful voices amongst you in this room. And reaching out to every representative from North Carolina, sending messages, letting them know that we believe that we deserve this. We believe that we are better than this. We believe that we can absolutely make a difference, and we're willing to help. We're willing to work collaboratively. We're willing to reach across the boundaries, the little things that divide us, because we are so much more alike than we are different. Thank you for being here. I do want to say that you are going to get a follow-up survey from Congresswoman Foushee's office, and you can also get an opportunity to ask questions that were not answered this evening. I know we are politicians, and some of us are also lawyers, so we talk a lot.
One of us is not.
But still talks a lot. So we're sorry that we couldn't get to this. We could have gone on till midnight. We wouldn't get to all the questions. There is so much of this, but there is so much that we are capable of doing, and that we are still continuing to do well. And I will say, just today, I'm so proud of the universities that stood up and said, not on our watch.
A lot of people that wanted to come, but they obviously wasn't full.
What was the question?
There was a lot of people who were on the wait list, I know, that wanted to come and would have come, and I think they would have filled out the house.
I'm
So,
happy to connect with you all.
yes, thank you.
And our plan is to do this again going forward, hopefully in a bigger space. We do have bigger spaces, timing matters. But then I want to turn it over to Congresswoman Foushee for her closing remarks. Again, thank you all for being here. I don't know whether you're all from Chatham, but I hope you are.
So thank you, Chair Howard, and certainly thank you, Leader Reeves, for being here. Thank you to all of you for coming out and engaging. Thank you for your thoughtful questions. We hope that this has been informative, and again, it won't be a one-off. What we're trying to do, I do have 4 counties, so I'm trying to give all of my constituents the opportunity to engage. But anything that we did not respond to tonight, please speak with staff or go to our website and ask your questions, and certainly we will get back to you. If there's ever anything you need that you believe that we can help you with, please don't hesitate to make contact with us, and we will respond. It is a great honor for me to serve. We've talked about what it means for this country to stay great. America's already great. Yeah. We just need to make sure that it stays great for everybody, including people like yourselves who are experiencing something that you had nothing to do with it coming on you. But trust me, we will continue to fight for life-saving medicine and medicines that enhance the quality of life. We're not going to stop because there are some distractions, there are some roadblocks. We'll just keep plugging. Again, thank you all, and have a good day.